All right. So, welcome aboard, guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. We've been
Yep.
talking back and forth for a while. So, we have a list of topics. The first one is going to be the biggest one, obviously, which is just GPU content. We recently had the 50 series go live, 5080, 5090. Obviously, that was a huge, not great launch, however you want
Yeah.
to word it.
Probably one of the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I figured I'll introduce the topics, pass it on to you guys, let y'all
Cool.
do, your ideas, and then wrap back around to me, and then we'll just go through there. So yeah, I guess Danny, let's start with you, man. 5080, 5090 launch. What are your initial thoughts, reactions, all that stuff on it?
Honestly, it's been a mixed bag, right? Like initially, I was pretty hyped for it. I already kind of knew like how the whole reaction was gonna go because so many I think this was probably one of the Nvidia's most leaked generations because we were hearing the specs like from a long time ago. I think like by the midpoint of 2024, like we already knew what the specs were. So I'm like looking at it, I'm like, okay, this is not gonna be like a big leap in terms of raster that people want. So it's
Yeah.
gonna come down to pricing. And then what the new whole feature is going to be that NVIDIA rolls out, because they always have that new feature, right? Last gen was X2 frame gen, now it's just X4 frame gen, and then they updated the whole DLSS4 model and everything. So I'm like, that's what's basically gonna make or break the series.
Yeah.
So initially when they announced it, I was like, pricing wise, it doesn't seem so bad. But then now you look at the state of the market, and it's just like, yeah, like you're not getting it for those prices, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a big buzzkill, and honestly, I think just these past few weeks or so, my interest in the whole series has just nosedived compared to
Yeah.
somewhat of
Same.
the interest I had initially. But I don't know.
Same.
You guys, let me know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, Cal, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, watching the presentation. It was like, damn, like, oh my God, a 5070 is going to beat a 4090. And like, I was tricked for a good 20 minutes and I was like, nah, let me look at this real quick. Started looking up stuff and I was like, there's just no freaking way. Like, there's no way. They're on the same exact node. Sorry, it's like what? Kind of like Intel did with Skylake. It's
Yeah,
like
just
plus
a
plus.
refined. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, it really just feels like just a repeat of the last generation. Like they should have made another Super Series or should have saved the Super Series and just did this. And I
Mhm.
think like maybe that in combination with them having issues with Blackwell in general, like a while ago, like during the middle of summer, there was like a lot of like wafer issues.
Yeah.
I think that combined with like TSMC's line just being completely loaded with everyone
Yeah.
is making them cornered into a weird spot. And my theory is that we're gonna have a really short 50 series. Like it's gonna be like they want to launch again in August, September for 6,000 or whatever they call it, and we're gonna have exactly starting from the time we can get them, like a year and a half instead
Yeah.
of 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
what about you, Iraq?
Oh man, I echo a lot of the same thoughts as you guys. I mean, so obviously I was excited at first, just like you, Taekwondo. I was tricked for a brief minute.
Yeah.
For a minute, I thought we were
Hey.
actually getting that real generation uplift, right? Like I actually thought they were going to do the thing that everybody wants them to
Yeah.
do, and I'm like,
We're
yeah,
used to
great,
it.
awesome.
I saw your initial tweet. You were hyped, man.
Yeah, for a minute I was like, dude, yes, this is it. This
Yeah,
is
dude.
it.
Dude.
And then just like you, I'm like, but would Nvidia really do that? I mean, they should, but would they? Would
Yeah.
they? And so I was like, let me look into it. I start comparing the specs, and I'm like, I see what they're doing. They're doing. No. And then I'm just like, and I mean, I even thought about taking the tweet down, but I'm like, what's the point? Like part of the tweets are like the live reaction and stuff. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a moment in history. Obviously, I'm not the only person to feel that way at first, and that's what marketing's meant to do. It's meant to gotcha.
Yeah.
Get
They're
you
marketing
excited.
Geniuses, that's for sure.
Yeah, they really
They
are.
really
But
are.
yeah, the moment you look into it, though, you just start to realize you're like, okay, dude, this is half the VRAM. Like the CUDA cores are way,
Dude.
cut down. There's just no way. So yeah, what were we gonna say?
The wild thing about it is like if you go on Facebook or Reddit PCMR and you look at these people for the first like week and a half, it was just memes, endless memes of people being like,
Yeah.
we're owning you now. Like in other words, people who
Mhm.
could afford, and there's nothing. Listen, I do like budget segments on my channel, like
Mhm.
I'm running a Titan XP right now,
Yeah.
But the point of saying like everyone's like, oh yeah, we're gonna, like, they're doing all these meme videos and stuff acting like the 4090 is now owned. The 4090 is like the in between better. The 4090 went up in value. Like it literally went up in value.
Yeah.
I
It's
sold
crazy.
mine. I sold mine for $2,000.
Honestly,
it was
I've
just-
been tempted. I've been tempted. But I'm like, I still need it for the test bench. So I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to, but the guy Min in the video, he was like, "I'll be the bad guy for you," because I'm like, I don't want to be a scalper and like ask for $2,000. He's like, "Why don't you sell it?" And I was like, "I don't want to do that. Like, it feels weird." And he's like, "I'll do it for you." And I was like, "All right, you post it, see what happens." Day came. He's like, already sold like a day later. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
He was like, it was snowing out too. He was like, can you have him? Can you set up a date, like a time to go meet him? And I was like, yeah, can we meet at a police station? I made it like complicated. I was like, yeah, I can't do that time because I didn't really want to get rid of it. And I ended up meeting him, and the kid was like he was a nice kid, but he was totally a scalper. He had just got a 5080. He had just got a 5090. I don't know how this kid got them, and like maybe he was like exaggerating. I have no idea, but I was like, all right, $2,000, okay.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess he was planning to pay you $2,000, which was that's a benefit for you. But then he's hoping to turn around and flip it for $3,000 or $4,000.
He probably,
Yeah.
he probably put it on eBay, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like none of us like scalpers, right? And we're not gonna endorse that or anything.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, well, how can they keep getting away with it? Because people are buying it.
It's like
it's that simple.
It's all of our faults and their fault at the same time. They're shorting the amount of supply, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't like, this one was really bad, man. I've never, I don't know how far back you guys go with tech stuff, but like I go to like 2008. Like I have never seen a launch this bad ever. Like I think the other one that was this bad was maybe the 30 series because of the pandemic. But like
back then, you had valid reasons, right? Like it was the pandemic. A lot of manufacturers were on lockdowns as well, especially in Asia. They were harsh over there. Production lines were just limited. So there were obviously valid reasons. Crypto was booming, and then everyone and their grandma wanted a gaming PC. And there was, a whole bunch of issues, people working from home and whatnot. So everyone wanted a gaming PC back then. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, what's the reason for this, right? I mean, look, TSMC, they're pretty much the sole manufacturer. They're doing Nvidia, Apple, AMD, Qualcomm. They're doing a whole bunch of companies. So, I mean, they're obviously limited too, but I'm like, Nvidia, you guys didn't foresee this. So I don't know. A lot of people, I've seen the theories out there. I've watched a whole bunch of other podcasts as well. And, a lot of people are speculating that, Nvidia is just kind of artificially doing this to create hype and FOMO.
Yeah. I think I even said that I did a video, like it was like my only rant video I've ever done, talking about, GPU launches have to change. And I want to see them change, like, let's even say, just hypothetically, let's say Nvidia legitimately gave us the best they could, just for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
Well, if you're looking at the numbers, you're saying that's the best you can give us, then hold it. Wait until you can do a little more, or at least work with retailers to implement some type of better communication process where there's like a pre-order process or something. My whole point with this was I went to my local micro center. So I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate. I live in Georgia. We have 2 micro centers here, not just one.
Damn,
so very fortunate on that. And so my local one, the one closest to me, I drive, I get there. It's literally the entire building. Just side to side, and then some are people. And let me tell you, I drove around. You have people that they're intense. They were sleeping bags. One guy had some type of generator with him, and he had a table set up, and he had a GameCube sitting on it with a TV, and he was playing GameCube. I was like, I almost stopped the car. I was like, I want to get out and hang out and play. It's kind of cool, but at the same time, I'm like, well, there's no way I'm getting a card, so I'm gonna go back home. And this is before the Astral was sent to me or anything like that for review. So I was just like everybody else. I was there. I came. I was willing to wait and pay the money if it was reasonable. But anybody with 2 eyes could look and say, okay, at this point, there's just I didn't even know where the line started. It was literally like just end to end on the building segment. I had no idea. I was like, I don't know if that's the start or if that's the start. And then you had people all sprinkled out in the parking lot. And the thing I didn't understand was like, okay, you guys are camping here, but you're not even in the line. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish at 9 a.m. when the store opens? So, but the point is, I was just so I was so upset about the launch because it's 2025. Technology is better than it's ever been before. You have every form of communication on the planet. All of this is completely avoidable. It's completely avoidable. If you want to make sure that more people get cards, if you want to make sure that people aren't wasting their time sitting in the cold for 2-3 days at a time outside, you could prevent that if you wanted to. But it goes back to the manufactured FOMO that we were talking about. They want this. They want this.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what we were saying, right? Like we saw the benchmarks and stuff. You know, it seemed underwhelming, especially with the 5080, right? Like it's only, I don't know, depending on whose benchmark you guys saw, it was like 10%, 12% faster than a 4080, 4080 Super.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they had a whole bunch of stock available, I mean, I think for the 5080, to be fair, they had a decent amount of stock from what I was seeing in Micro Center.
Yeah,
in Canada,
wasn't too bad.
We got jack shit. But I think if they had like decent amount of normal stock, then you know that would have. It wouldn't have created that hype, because then you would have seen all the cards sitting on shelves. And I don't think it would have necessarily created that FOMO that they're looking for. So I think this way, it's more of a psychological thing, right? It's like you see people are like, oh yeah, I'm getting a 5080, and it's so hard to get one, but I finally got one. And you see people on places like Reddit and social media and YouTube posting about it.
Yeah. On the 5080 aspect, I kind of said this to you, E-Rock. It's like right now, after selling my card, I don't really know what to buy in between. Like I could go with an older 3090 and potentially have VRAM issues because of heat and all this stuff, and it's 5 years old at this point, right?
Yeah.
Or I can buy a 5080 MSRP Founders Edition if I'm lucky. Those are always the most expensive, and make $1,000 and have $1,000 card that's pretty decent at video editing and stuff. So I'm kind of like, I'm a little torn because like, E-Rock, you understand this, right? You got the Astro. Like, it's hard because it's like you don't want to suggest the card because it's not a viable like increase over last gen. But then again, if someone's coming from 30 series, 20 series, it kind of does make sense. And it's like, it's such a tough one. And but I might be buying a 5080, but weird to say, but I'm definitely going MSRP.
You definitely have to for it to make sense.
Or as close as possible, at least.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I was looking at the prices, and I was like, over here at least, and I'm like, I didn't pay this the amount for a 5080. I was like, I only paid a little bit more for a 4090, or it's about neck and neck. So I was like, you're getting an inferior card, you're getting less VRAM, and then it's like you could have enjoyed that performance like 2.5 years earlier.
Yeah. It's a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. So a couple of things I want to mention on that. So I'll start with a simple one. So Linus really recently did a video with his WAN show, and one of the clips I caught from that was usually I just watch the clips. I don't have time to watch the entire show. But I was watching one of the clips. I saw the title, and I think the premise was something along the lines of, what we do, does it even matter? Does it even matter what we do anymore? And when you listen to his logic and he starts going through, and keep in mind, it's like the biggest tech creator out there. He's talking about his numbers, we have this many subs, we're getting this many views, this many people actually finish the video. And he shows his retention graph, and you can see how many people fell off during that video. So they didn't make it to the conclusion. And he's talking about the 5080 video. They didn't make they did not make it to the final conclusion. They didn't make it to the final recommendation. And come launch day, people are lined up around the country at every Micro Center. 100-something people. When I showed up, like I fully expected when I showed up, I fully expected to have 9-10 people ahead of me. Totally. And I was that's fine. That's cool. I can live with that, Dude, when I saw just one side to one side, the entire building covered in people, I was floored. I was like, did you guys not? I'm not even gonna say like, did you not see my video? But probably not, because I'm not the biggest tech creator. But did you not see Linus? Did you not see GN? Did you not see anybody?
Yeah.
Like, did you not see the reviews of this? Do you not realize? Like, Danny, going back to what you were saying. So Tech Power Up. For some reason, I memorized this by heart. So 5080 techpowerup.com. 5080 compared to the 4080 is exactly 11% faster. 5080 compared to the 4080 Super is exactly 9% faster, according to techpowerup.com. I don't know why I remember those numbers. I looked at them one time, and for some reason, they just locked in the memory. But that's not something to get excited about, right?
Nope.
Anyway,
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
looking back at like all the previous generations, specifically the 80 class, right? This is like the first time I think the 80 class doesn't beat the last generation flagship. It like
Yeah.
falls behind it by like 15% or so. I did see
Yeah.
some pretty promising overclocking results, but I mean that's the whole conversation of like not many people do overclocking. But I mean, just
Yeah.
out of the box, it's disappointing because you don't. Yeah, it's the first time you don't see the 80 class beat the 90 class or the TI or the flagship.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go back like as far back as like the 780 Ti to the 970, the let's say what the 1070 and the 980 Ti, like it just
Mhm.
kind of keeps going. 2080
Yeah.
Ti was a little bit weird because of that whole stopgap and introducing
Yeah.
RTX, but
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing with the Astral, real quick, I know I've been talking for a second, but the thing with the Astral is, honest to God, I can tell you this. On one hand, it's a 5080. You know what I mean? Like you can only you can polish it so much, but at the end of the day, it's a 5080, right? It does not
Yeah.
matter how good of a 5080 it is still a 5080, and
Yeah.
there's not really anything you can do to change that.
right.
On the other hand, though, if you're somebody who's like, hey, I'm fine with it being a 5080, I just want to get, a really good
Nice
card.
card. Yeah.
I can honestly say the Astral, hands down, is the best GPU I've ever personally touched in terms of quality. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's the best in terms of VRAM or gaming. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in terms of like
Physically, the
pure
card itself, how it's
quality.
built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you touch the card, hands down, immediately you're like, okay, I understand why this is more expensive. And I'm probably going to say this in my video. I'm not saying the card is justified at $1,500, but I will say the card is justified to be more expensive than MSRP.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If
I would say
if-
like
yeah,
I
go
would say
ahead.
like 13.99. They could have slipped that.
Yeah.
It's just that
Yeah.
extra 100 on top that everyone's
Yeah.
like, ooh,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
100 away from MSRP at 4090. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But you
for
could be like,
sure.
that's 10%, right? But like, I
Yeah,
don't,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
not great math there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10%.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if it didn't matter at all and people were like, just buy the cheapest, then you would see it sitting on shelf. But I mean, that's clearly not the case. People are buying the Astral.
Mhm.
A lot of people are
Yeah.
going, even the 5090 Astrals, those things are selling like hotcakes. Like they come in stock and then boom, instantly they're sold out.
yeah.
People
So,
are buying
people
for
want
like
to pay for
5,000,
that good value.
6,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, man. And this, I even said that in one of my videos where I was like, I think I said something to the extent of YouTube is not real life or something like that.
Yeah.
Basically indicating you can go to the YouTube comments and you can read everybody hating on you. Why didn't you say anything negative, or why are you not, blah blah blah, whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, one, I clearly said that was an unboxing video and the review is coming, but
Yeah.
two, putting that technical detail aside, like you just said, the purchase history speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You go to eBay, go to any other e-tailer's website and filter by sold.
Yeah.
And you're going to see
Yeah, you're
the
absolutely right on
general
that.
populace they're buying these cards. And that's why Nvidia, Asus, MSI, whoever you want to say, that's why they're listing these cards at these prices, is because they know, okay, that's a vocal minority in the comments.
It is. No, it absolutely is. You're actually right on that. Because if you look recently, MSI and Asus, I don't know about the other partners if they're going to follow on them, but they actually jacked up their prices on their official stores. So obviously, what you see in retail now, they're gonna be more expensive too. And I mean, it goes back to people on social media and places like YouTube comment sections are all gonna whine and scream and yell that, oh, it's too expensive and who's buying this, and clearly they're selling, right? The markup obviously compared to previous generations, even for like the premium models, like if you go back like to the 10 series, like the super higher end MSI models, they were only like, what was the MSRP on the 1080 Ti? It was $699, right?
Yeah.
So you go back and take a look at some of the higher end Strix, and back then I don't think MSI had Vanguard. They had like the Gaming Z or whatever. I think it was like a $50 increase at most. So yeah, I mean, it was easier pill to swallow for sure, a lot more easily digestible. But now you look at it, look at the Astro, the Matrix from Asus, or the Supreme from MSI, and it's like almost like $800, $900 over MSRP, over a $2,000 card, which is already a lot of money to begin with.
Yeah.
They did do it years ago. I actually have, like, I think I showed you, E-Rock. There's a Poseidon back there. That's a 780 Ti, and the MSRP of that one was like I mean, it's a water block squished together, so it's a little more expensive. But
Yeah.
the MSRP, I think, was like somewhere around. Dude, I don't want to screw it up, but it was like $200-300 more than the rest of them, if I remember correctly. But they've been always kind of doing it. It's just like you said, Danny, like they used to be 50 to 100 more. And then you're like, all right, you know, I'm getting a better cooler, because the FE coolers were always kind of trash. I mean, I'm literally on a Titan XP, and like I play Call of Duty for 5 minutes and it's like, you know, like the whole time just going
Kyle, you're
nuts.
looking at, you're on the fence. You're like, you might get a 5080, you might not get a 5080. Danny, where are you at?
Me, honestly, if and you know, you and I, we talked about this privately. Basically, it was if I wasn't really doing any sort of YouTube content on the side, yeah, like my interest would be like totally zero. But it's just for the sake of maybe testing it out, making some videos about it. But honestly, like right now, like even now, like I still don't have the energy to go out and, you know, refresh websites and hit F5 or call around to like local electronic retailers and be like, do you guys have it in stock? Like I'm just past that point. I'm like, if I see it in stock one day, maybe cool. I'll check it out. But if not, then I'm just I'm cool with it.
I feel
you.
And Kyle, what were you gonna say a while ago? I felt like I cut you off for a minute. Sorry, man.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so as a consumer, I have zero interest in the 50 series cards, 110%, because I have a 4090 that I paid for. Nobody sent it to me. Like I paid for that. I went to Micro Center. I paid $1,600. That's why it's a PNY model, because when I bought it, obviously you have the people that are happy for you, but then you always have the people that are like, get a fit PNY and that, you know, all that crap. I'm like, because it was it was in stock, and B, it was the cheapest model, and even being the cheapest model, it's a $1,600 card. So I paid for that, you know. And so as a consumer, having a 4090, I would just sit on it. You know, like if you're somebody who has a 4090, there's really no reason to get a 5090, and anything below a 5090 is a downgrade.
I have regrets. Yes, I have regretting things.
But
you sold your 4090.
It was an FE too.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, but at the same time though, money talks though, man. I mean, like you said, because there's another guy that's been popping up a lot on my X feed. Sorry, I forget his name. He's a smaller tech creator. I don't even think he has 1,000 subs yet, but he's focusing on, you know, how to get a GPU. Like that's, you know, like, hey, go to this website. That style of stuff, right? Yeah,
I might have seen him.
Probably. Well, he ended up making a video recently that said kind of what you're talking about. Hey, if you have this card, sell it, make this money, downgrade, get this card, which is still really good, and then you profit. And then later, when stock becomes more plentiful, you can sell it and then put all the money together and go get a 50 series. And I think I don't think that translated well to the community. I think a lot of people were like, dude, this is stupid. Okay, so we've been talking about GPUs for about 34 minutes. One more thing on GPUs before we switch to the next topic. What do you guys think of the future of GPUs? Because right now you have Nvidia, who's the king, but they're not really innovating. And we just got a refresh. Like, to me, the short version is 50 series is kind of like the 40 super. You know, like exactly. The 5080 is kind of like the 4080 Ti super, or super.
Just
something
bunch
like
of revisions.
Yeah, pretty much just the revision. It's not like an actual gen on gen, change or anything.
It's
and then of course, and then the magic there is the what is it? Fairy dust is multi-frame generation, right?
Yeah.
So okay. So my question is like, okay, Nvidia, you gave us frame generation. Now you're giving us multiple frame generation or multi-frame generation. What's next? You can't just keep saying now it's multi-frame generation.
Honestly, I see it going that way right now, man, because they just don't really have like a huge, fire underneath them or any sort of competition. That's the whole reason why we're into this situation in the grand scheme of things, right? Where people are lining up for 5080s, even though we're like, yo, it's not worth it. But I think I see that's the direction we're going to go into if, I don't know, either Intel or AMD pull some kind of miracle and are starting to fight, start trading blows with Nvidia in terms of like pure raster, and we kind of go back to that. But I think for the time being, until that happens, Nvidia is just going to be like, okay, you know what? We're just going to sit on this. We're good with hardware. We're going to tell people that, we're just at the limit of hardware. So we're just going to keep feeding people on AI stuff. Like I was looking at the update on the Nero compression texture stuff. And Yeah, like it's kind of impressive, right? Like you have the same sort of image and textures, and you're using like 80% less VRAM. So I think that's going to be the next big thing. I don't know if they said that the 50 series is going to be compatible with that. I think they said they said that they are. But
Yeah.
yeah, I see that totally being the direction where they're going to basically be selling you less hardware and selling you more on the software side of things, which is funny
Yeah.
because it's like I don't know how much they're investing on that software side of things. If it's more cost effective for them to do that, rather than just slapping more VRAM onto the cards themselves. So yeah, I see that as the direction. Just AI everywhere. That's it. That's it.
Gotcha. Okay. What about you,
Mhm.
Kyle?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's been pretty much that for a while now. I'm actually so one thing that I've always been a little bit annoyed about with Nvidia is that they launch on a new idea, like frame
Mhm.
gen or a new concept, and then by the time you're implementing it realistically, it's always like way later on
Mm,
another generation. It's like
yeah.
we started with 20 series with ray tracing, and it's like sure, ray tracing does look good in some circumstances. Obviously, not every game looks good, but yeah, it just feels like we're always like chasing the rabbit a little
Mhm.
bit with what they're releasing.
Mhm.
When it comes to AMD, I kind of feel bad a little bit for AMD, but also annoyed because it's like, all right, you're copying them. You're copying the naming scheme. You had a pretty good video on this, Danny. I remember it was like, yeah, I agreed with like everything you said. Just like straight up stealing their name. But they are trying to play catch up. I think they're always going to be playing catch up, just like forever. I don't think it's ever going to be.
Always
Nvidia's
gonna
just
be
like too
second
big.
fiddle. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the third. I don't know if they're third now, but they were the second largest company in the world. I used to make all these like Skynet jokes to people, and I'd be like, one day, you don't know, but this company is going to be big. Told my dad back in like 20, I think it was like 2013. I was like, we
Hmm.
should invest. We should invest. And he
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
that's a gaming company.
Yeah. You're
And I was
talking about
like,
AMD, right?
Nvidia
Nvidia.
actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because I remember I like walked into his office and it was like 2013. I forget what the stock was. It might have been like 30, $40, something like that. Um, as low, I think I saw it as low as like $10 or $12.
Yeah. That's a
I
big
don't
regret of
quote me
mine.
on. Yeah,
But,
Yeah.
but back then I was just broke boy.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Hindsight's 2020, man.
Yeah.
I went into my dad. I was like, "Hey, we should put $5,000 in this," and he was like, "That's a gaming company." I was like, "It's not really though." He's
Have you
like,
done the
Starting to
math
branch
on it?
out.
Like what would that $5,000 be today?
"I don't want to do the math.
Dude.
I don't want to do the math.
Oh
It's
man.
probably insane."
Don't do it.
Dude.
Don't do it. You'll feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's wow.
I've brought it
Okay.
up like recently to him, and I was like, "Remember when I said that?" And he was like, "I don't know. Well, I don't know what you said." And I was like, I did say it, but all right."
Dude, well, my take on it is, yeah, I worry that we're hitting silicon limits, like what's even physically capable at this time with GPUs. Um, Honestly, I feel like, so it's hard to say this, right? Because I know what the gamers want, but then I see the reality. The reality is Nvidia has absolutely zero motivation to change anything.
Yeah.
Part of it's competition, like you were talking about. The other part of it is what we've already talked about, is that even though we were seeing the lackluster gen on gen performance uplift, people are still lining up around the block to buy these things. And Nvidia knows that. Nvidia knows we're going to do what we want. We're Nvidia and people are going to buy it.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And it's very unfortunate, but that's the reality.
Yep.
From the gaming standpoint, here's what I think gamers could get on board with here in the YouTube space when everybody's writing their comments and complaining about Nvidia and the pricing. Here's what I think they could do. If Nvidia just came out and was honest and was transparent, just like the three of us try to be with our audience, and say, look, we have hit the limit of what is possible at this time. We're not gonna stop trying. We're not gonna stop trying to innovate. But what we're gonna do is, this is a small, gen on gen uplift here, but the prices are lower. We're giving you more VRAM, and we're now focusing on efficiency improvements. And then here's all the AI slop on top of it, right?
Yeah.
If they just did that, I think more people would be like, hey, okay, that sucks, but we get it. There are physical limitations to this world and what can be achieved, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I saw, what was it, UFD Tech? I think it was UFD Tech, right around the launch of right when the reviews were going live. I think he did a video and he was like sitting in a chair somewhere. He wasn't in his normal studio, and he was talking about how I thought it was a very well made point. He basically said, he essentially said, we as gamers take engineering for granted. We just expect oh, in 2 years, you're going to perform another miracle and boom, just give us something that, like, but you forget people have to go to work every day. People like you and me, whoever majors in this stuff, they have to go to work every day and actually do that work. They actually have to figure out a way to solve that problem. And just how here in North America, we still don't have over-the-counter solutions for things like cancer or other diseases.
Yeah, basic stuff too.
There are limitations in this world. And so I think from a gaming standpoint, people would at least respect Nvidia a little bit more if they were just honest about it. And I don't see any shame in being honest about it. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I don't agree with the whole this whole consensus that some people drive that, oh yeah, Nvidia just doesn't care about gamers anymore. I mean, occasionally I'll do that too in a headline, right? Just to kind of be like, oh yeah, they don't. But the reality is, if they actually didn't care about gamers, then they would have completely abandoned that whole segment. Like, they actually gave a decent sized presentation on like AMD, or like, yeah, guys, you'll hear more about AMD and FSR4 and RDNA 4 later on, but they actually they're rolling out features, and they're giving decent features. It's not like it's all total doom and gloom on they're selling us on the AI stuff. Because I mean, I recently made some videos on it. I was like testing out DLSS4, the transformer model, and I'm like, this is actually really good, because I'm like, I can use and the fact that I can use it on a RTX 2080, which is nearly a 7-year-old graphics card now, and breathe more life into the GPU. I'm like, this is actually good. Like, this is a bone that Nvidia is throwing to gamers who can't actually upgrade. I'm like, they're actually looking out for gamers in a way here, especially it's going to come in clutch for handheld consoles. I know a lot of handheld consoles, they're not going to be using NVIDIA, but I mean, AMD is going to be coming out with FSR4, and I mean, Intel has ZSS. So
Switch 2
that
coming.
kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, Switch might. I've been hearing about that with the new Tegra. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's some cool stuff that NVIDIA is still doing right for gamers, and they can do a really good job at selling that. And they are clearly, it's working, because X4 frame generation, I know decent amount of people who are genuinely interested in, and it's not like it's total just snake oil, right? If you try, I've only tried X2 frame generation because I don't have a 50 series, but with X2 frame generation, like, that's how I played Cyberpunk with path tracing, and I was like, I mean, it's totally usable. The input lag, it's not that big of a difference. I'm not a professional gamer, so I don't care. At the end of the day, it allows me to enjoy that eye candy, and I get to do another run through of Cyberpunk and enjoy a really really good game.
Yeah.
I have 2 kind of questions for both of you at the same time.
Okay.
So obviously, E-Rock, like, you have the 50 series on hand, so you've been able to test the multi-frame gen, assuming you can say some stuff before releasing it.
So I'm actually, I've only played with it a little bit. Tonight I'm actually doing the deep dive on the frame gen. Last night was all raster, so I was up 22 hours doing raster, no ray tracing, raster with ray tracing. So tonight is the night that I'm going to be up doing all the frame gen stuff and looking for artifacting and things of that nature. I will say this though, Hogwarts Legacy, I was doing raster on that. Turned out wasn't raster. It was actually frame generation enabled, but it was the X2 mode.
Yeah.
Oh, so
but here's what happened. All the DLSS stuff was grayed out. And for those who may not know, whenever you're, at least in Hogwarts Legacy, when it's grayed out, that means it's turned off. That's what the coloration means. Hey, if it's turned on, it's colorful, you can see it. But if it's grayed out, it's in the background, that means it's turned off, right?
Yeah.
It's turned off, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the game and I'm like, man, this frame rate's a lot higher than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it was the frame time graph that saved me. Because with frame generation, the frame time graph, it's just like a big block. It's not your normal wave. It's a big block. And I'm like, that frame time graph is making it see. It's like there's something wrong here. So I went and I looked, and even though all the DLSS stuff was completely grayed out, if you looked underneath one of them, it said frame generation X2. And I'm like, if I didn't know better, I would say frame generation is enabled, but it should be disabled. What's going on? So here's what I did. I turned on DLSS to get access to that, deactivated frame generation, then deactivated DLSS, and now it's all gray again. Now it's all gray, but that X2's out there. Frame rate goes down by like 50, 60 FPS. That frame, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me right now, dude. So far, that's been my experience with frame generation.
Because it just auto enables.
You hit the nail on. You hit the head on the nail of one of my biggest pet peeves, because I was just recently doing some benchmark benchmarking as well for some games for
Yeah.
a video I'm working on. And I'm like, I hate how a lot of these newer games are doing this is when you're switching between presets or activating certain settings, they're just automatically turning on upscaling and frame generation. I was like, stop doing this. Like, you're
Yeah.
ruining my run to run results. Like, just
Yeah.
stop. Like, just let me. Like, if it's a high preset, I just want to see high in the graphics. Like, don't turn on upscaling if I'm choosing this
Yeah.
preset. Like, upscaling comes
Yeah.
afterwards. Stop doing
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
It's funny because I don't do the same stuff you guys do with like benchmarks as often, but I went to go play Cyberpunk with path tracing on, and I went to turn it on, and every time I would turn on it would turn on FSR 3 or
Mhm.
yeah, right, FSR 3. And instead of Nvidia frame gen, I was like, what the heck? I would turn on Nvidia's frame gen and it would just go to FSR. I didn't know that like deep in Windows, you have to turn on hardware acceleration to
Oh,
have
yeah.
that even work. And I've been like just running it off this entire time. So none of my games have automatically enabled any of that stuff ever. And so when everyone was like, oh, it auto enables it, I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like
That's
I've
a
like,
good tip. That's a
but
good tip from benchmarking, huh?
yeah, so if you
Yeah.
turn off the hardware acceleration in Windows 11, because I'm on 11, which I really want to try the Windows 10 Enterprise that I think you had posted it to. Tech Yes City was also talking about like some
Yeah.
variations that they're going to be trying to like make
Yeah.
work, which I have a couple thoughts on that. I'm like, not a lot of people are not going to do this. So it's like, I was a little bit, I'm like, as you know, E-Rock, I'm like really tight with Brian.
Mhm.
And it was like when people benchmark on Windows 10, it's cool because it gets the best numbers in a lot of scenarios, but also it's like not the majority of people at this point, I think, right? Like what's the percentage of people on Windows 10? I'm not even sure.
I actually did do a poll on my community page, and surprisingly, yeah, like Windows 11 is now overwhelmingly the majority.
Yeah.